Ladies and gentlemen, it is now day 5 of the 5th Custom Mail-In Tournament. Let's see who will start us off in today's races. We will have Ray, Sparky Racer, Bulletproof, and Wild Willie G. And as the race begins, Sparky Racer has a slight lead, but here come Bulletproof and Ray, taking the lead quickly away from them as the lane split up a little bit. And as they head the other direction, it is Ray who has a slight lead, I think, but Bulletproof is quickly taking that away. And now they head towards that infamous jump. Bulletproof gets across, skids sideways and causes a bit of a traffic jam here with Ray, and that traffic jam is getting bigger. Wild Willie G pushes Ray across, but as a result, they lost all the momentum in the process. So Ray is the only person that will finish here. Definitely a bit of commotion after that final turn, but at least everyone got there, which not all races can say they did. Partly because of that jump, and speaking of which, you may notice from this point forward that the jump over that waterfall, the gap has been closed a little bit, making it a little bit easier to make that jump and hopefully improving the performances of the racers in general. You may also notice that the merge after that jump is a bit further away from it to hopefully minimize on the collisions that happen after everyone gets through there. But now for race number 2, Ray is back out in front, but Bulletproof is not making it easy for them as they take off and hold on to the lead, pulling away from the rest of the pack all alone up there. And now they're heading for that jump. What will happen? They get across, they stay straight mostly, but their back end clips the side just a little bit, and they get across thankfully. And here comes Ray. Will they be able to finish? They stop, they get slightly nudged forward, but they still will not finish. So now in this race we have another time where only one person gets across, but this time it was Bulletproof, while Willie G got flipped upside down around that last turn. Likely did not have the speed they needed after the jump. Bulletproof was able to stay on their feet, but look at Wild Willie G tumbling as they start going around the bend. And Bulletproof finished with 12.18. Right now, the new speed record is 11.07. That was set in the last day of races. And now this race has begun. Ray has a lead, but there goes Bulletproof once more. Will they be able to catch back up? It doesn't look like they will, at least not for now, but that jump could change everything. And now they go down the hill across the gap. It looked like they started to spin sideways a little bit, almost doing a barrel roll or something. But look, they stay in the middle of the lane, staying off the walls, pulling off a decent 12.06. Scale Racing was the one who finished with an 11.07, getting very close to finishing under 11 seconds flat. So it definitely seems possible, but it is difficult because that jump could throw you off almost entirely, literally. But at least we have more than one finisher here. In fact, we only had one person who didn't. That being Sparky in this case, who still has yet to cross the finish line. Now for one final race, it's looking pretty solid for Ray and Bulletproof at this point. And now here, Bulletproof is already pulling away even before they get to the lane split. And he's taking off even more, heading into the lane merger right before the big jump. They get there, they go across, they start spinning a little bit. And look at that correction. They started drifting a bit, but they got their nose to face forward again. But they lost enough speed that gave Ray the opportunity to pass them before they got to the finish line. Meanwhile, we have two non-finishers here. We got one that was pretty close to the finish line, but unfortunately couldn't get there. Wild Willie G, once more, did not have the speed they needed after the final bend. They did at least get around it this time, but they didn't have what they needed in order to get to the finish line. So it looks like Ray and Bulletproof will be the ones to move on here. And I'm sure Bulletproof will be seeking vengeance on Ray after that last race. Especially now because they have tied as a result. But for now, we'll go into the second group. And we have Luna, Scooter, Zizzer Prime, and Puff. And here we go. It looks like Zizzer has the lead right now. Puff is not too far behind. Scooter is trying to stay with them, and Luna is not too far behind them. But Zizzer and Puff are pulling away, and they're almost neck and neck heading into the big jump right now. And there they go. Zizzer stays in front, at least for the moment, heading towards the finish line. Puff not too far behind, but they both had a clean jump and stayed off of each other as they approach the finish line. Luna is going around the bend, passing our other racer here. Scooter is their name. I blanked on it for a moment. My apologies. But neither one of them were able to finish. Look at that. Scooter actually went on their two right wheels for just a moment after landing. Luna had a slightly cleaner landing there. But in the end, neither one of those two were able to finish. Scooter just... I don't know if they just gave up or what, but they just drove off the track going around the turn. Nothing too fancy. They just drove right off. But this definitely makes it a little bit easier for Puff and Zizzer. Scooter is trying to stay with them, but as they go through that underpass, or go under that bridge, whatever that is, the scaffolding, they are pulling away in a big way, and now they're neck and neck as they go into the jump. But now it is Puff who has the lead, and they're trying to stay in front of Zizzer, and I believe they pulled it off. So we'll have yet another day where nobody will be undefeated. This is now 5 days in a row in this tournament where no one has come out the other side winning every single race. And that does include non-finishes, by the way. I believe the closest person to do that was Lisa RN, who finished in first every time except for one race where they did not finish. So we've had a sweep or two in there, but nobody has won every single race they've been in so far. But Scooter was actually able to finish there, so they got some points on the board. Let's see if Luna can do the same thing. Right now, Zizzer and Puff tied for 8 points. Puff has a slight lead over Zizzer, and now the lanes will split. Let's see what happens. It is now Zizzer slightly out in front, but Puff will be able to go through the inside lane that doesn't have as much of a rise, and they bump into each other going into the waterfall. And Zizzer lost so much speed, gets pushed forward by Scooter. And I believe that will count as a finish for Puff, but no one else will be doing so. Scooter saw that Zizzer was having some trouble trying to nudge them forward so they could still finish. But it did not quite work. So Puff is the only person to finish in this group, which will definitely help Puff as it is. But they were already in a good position by that point due to Scooter and Luna not doing so hot in the first couple of races. But look at this, they almost didn't finish. They went to a crawl, but thankfully got their back end across the finish line before anything else. And I say that because as long as you break the plane, as it were, kind of like in football, American football specifically, then that should still count. And now for one more race. No undefeated racers, no sweeps. This is all just to secure a spot in the next round. And it is Zizzer who currently holds on to the lead as they go into the lane merger, heading into the infamous jump. Not the cleanest landing by Zizzer, but they're still in front of Puff, at least for the moment. They head towards the finish line, both of them bouncing off the walls ever so slightly. And Zizzer gets the first place while Puff finishes in second. Scooter tries to get to the finish line, does not quite get there. And Luna I'm not exactly sure where they are right now. But we'll have the cameraman look for them. And that is actually kind of an unusual spot to stop, but I guess they didn't have a lot of momentum going up that part of the turn. And they just got stuck there. So they didn't even have a shot that time, unfortunately. But look at that little tumble by Scooter. The fact that they managed to get back on their wheels after a tumble like that is quite impressive. Even if they didn't have the speed they needed to get to the finish line, the fact that they got as far as they did is something worth applauding. But it will be Puff and Zizzer moving on to the final round, which we will now get into. So we'll have Ray and Zizzer, along with Bulletproof and Puff. And that was the race begins. Zizzer has a slight lead over Puff, I believe that is. Or is that Bulletproof? I think that's actually Bulletproof who's up there with Zizzer right now. But as they make the jump, what will happen? Zizzer launches forward after a much cleaner landing, allowing them to get the first place finish here. They will not be the only person to finish though, as both Puff and Ray get there. However, Bulletproof, who seemed to have a promising start over the others, I think that landing just did them in, because they were the first to get across, and yet they ended up being the only person to not finish. That is definitely not where you want to be, but the fact that they can get into first place at some point could still give them a chance. Now for the second lap down, Zizzer's currently holding on to the lead as the race begins, but Puff is only about a half a length behind them. And Bulletproof is giving them some contention as well, so as the lanes get back together, I believe that is Bulletproof out in front. No, that's actually Zizzer, who has a clean transition into the final stretch of the track with Puff not too far behind, and they finish in first once more. While Puff was able to finish in second, Ray and Bulletproof did not finish this time. I guess it just was not a fluke here, because Bulletproof has another non-finish. Holy cow. And that all but solidifies the fact that they will not be able to progress, but we will see if they can get a miracle to happen here. They're not necessarily out yet, but 2 non-finishes greatly diminishes their chances. And now for this race, it is actually Puff who has the lead for just a moment, but Bulletproof, trying to stay in this tournament, takes the lead and is now out in front. This jump could change everything. We will see as they get to it. They go down the ramp, across the jump, they spin around actually. They slow down, they try to nudge Puff out of the way, could not quite do it and almost grabbed first place, but Puff was just able to edge them out. But Zizzer ended up finishing in third. That could help, but we'll have to look at the point totals to be sure. Ray here, however, is a non-finisher in this one. Well, look at that. You could see them fishtailing as they went down the waterfall. And I'm sure that did a number on their performance leading into the finish line. But we had 3 finishers. Let's take a look at the point totals. That definitely helps Bulletproof. But Puff and Zizzer have, I believe, 11 and 12 points specifically, so they will not be able to catch up at this point. So I believe it'll be Zizzer and Puff progressing into the next phase of the tournament, but a valiant effort by Bulletproof for sure, along with Ray. And now here we go into the final turn. Bulletproof is trying to go out on a high note. And look at this, they managed to grab first. It unfortunately doesn't matter at this point. But look at how that finish ended. Zizzer Prime came to a complete stop as they got close to the finish line, but they got nudged forward by Ray, who still had enough stored momentum to get across. And Puff is the only non-finisher here. If Bulletproof had more results like that, they may have still been able to move on, but unfortunately, those first 2 races ultimately did them in. Look at this, come to a complete stop, nudged forward by Ray, who could still get across the finish line themselves. At least Bulletproof went out on a high note, but Zizzer and Puff will be the ones progressing, adding 2 more to our roster who is advancing to the next phase of the tournament. Thank you all so much for watching. See you next time.